Canceled is recorded in front of a live studio audience. It is not. Welcome to Canceled. We are back. This is week 2. Well, I guess it's technically, what is it? His Visit.
Yes.
Days 2 continued in 3?
Yes.
Yes, that's Brett VerVoort. You're here in the background. How are we doing, Brett?
I'm doing great, Chris.
Excellent. How was Slap Bracelet?
Slap Bracelet was amazing. We had a pretty full crowd, and we got a lot of inflatable furniture for the girls to sit on, kind of like a throwback 90s sleepover vibe. Mm-hmm. But they are designed for children and super cheap. So it's just watching 5 drunk comics slowly slide.
Deflate to the ground.
Yeah. Maybe there was a metaphor in there, but it was pretty entertaining to watch.
Awesome. When is that show going to be going forward?
It's the last Wednesday of every month at Barrel of Fun at the Alamo Drafthouse Mueller.
Awesome. So we'll do that. Definitely go to that. I am... All right, let's just jump into it because I went to the gym and there's nothing to say there. It's not interesting. I go to Classic Planet Fitness. I will say this. They have something called... It's like... Because I do the higher level membership, so I can go to all the gyms as opposed to just one.
Okay.
And with that, you get like access to the tanning beds, which I'm clearly going to use, and like massage chairs, and then something that was called like a hydro massage. And I was like, oh, what's that about? So it's like a bed that you lay on, and there's like a sack over the bed, and underneath, like, so you stay dry, but in that sack are these like jets of water that kind of go back and forth up and down your body or whatever, and like massage you. Okay. Which, like, it feels pretty nice. It is the loudest fucking thing on the... Like, you're supposed to... Like, I assume a massage is supposed to be somewhat relaxing.
Yeah.
Imagine that, but just also a train going by for the entire time. It's insanely loud.
Yeah, like an industrial car wash.
Yeah, exactly. Like someone's just power washing your back.
That feels like something that was designed for those kids that hang out near, like, the jet by the pool for too long. They're like, I want that over my whole body.
So that's been my day, except for watching 2 episodes of my new favorite show, John from Cincinnati.
Ooh, yeah.
What did you think of these episodes?
I think we definitely got a little bit more about John out of them, but I can't get past how abstract the dialogue is at times.
What's odd is, so it's like certain characters are very abstract.
Yes, like Bill especially.
The 3 at the hotel especially. But then just like Rebecca De Mornay just talks like a angry lady, when she should be angry, but like,
yeah,
she just, those, like, it's like the family tend to speak pretty normally. And then everyone else does this weird, like, faux Shakespearean dialogue and, like, soliloquies at all times.
Yeah, I don't know what the public education is like at Imperial Beach, but everybody seems to be doing pretty well.
Everybody's doing well, except for the random 3 people we meet that stab John. Wait, that's the next episode. We'll get to that in a minute.
What?
Did we watch the right episodes?
Yes.
Okay, just making sure. But so this is part 2 of the previous episode, the first one.
Yes, picking up right where the last one left off.
With Sean's eyes popping open because he was kissed by a bird.
Yes.
A bird that shit in Bill's pocket. I have to say, I think the show is, like, interesting and smart and is actually probably doing a lot of shit that I'm too dumb to really even understand it's doing.
Yeah.
It is also wildly scatological at all times. There's always somebody dumping out or... like farting, like there's a lot of just weird.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then, I know a lot of intellectual people and they will make gross jokes.
Sure,
so,
I get it. It's human.
Yeah, to air.
But and it's also like the show's cast is expanding.
Yes, they're adding more characters. Big character actors, too, make appearances where you're like, oh, wow, okay.
And like are clearly going to continue to be cast members. These aren't like one-off little moments. But then, like, so, like, the doctor is now, like, becoming a much bigger character than maybe I expected going in.
Yes, and then, like, he meets, I think it's in episode 4, but, like, you meet the attorney for the hospital.
Yeah, who's Stephen Tobolowsky.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you're like, well, they're not just going to put him in one episode. No.
Right. He's a big, that's the, I think I mentioned this with Pat Dean at one point, but it's the Law and Order problem where, like, you'll be watching an episode of Law and Order and suddenly, like, Jim Gaffigan is in it. And then you're like, well, they talk to him for 2 seconds and they leave. And you're like, oh, well, he'll be back because, like, or like Robin Williams is there for 10 seconds. Like, oh, I wonder if he's the bad guy because, like, he's a huge actor.
Yeah.
So this episode, like we said, is taking exactly where we left off. He is fine. Sean has gone from having a completely ruptured spinal cord,
brain
dead, no activity, 27 minutes deprived of oxygen, to just being fine.
Yeah, it's Bill coming out, and he's like, well, he looks a lot better.
He says, I wrote it down. He goes, he's much improved. He's well. I had Zippy kiss him. Thought I'd take a shot. And like, it's wild because none of them know about the bird. Like, only him and the kid know about the bird. So for him to say that to them, it's like, what the fuck are you talking about?
And then the doctor's like, okay, that's weird. And then goes in. And then he's just like, not only is he awake, but he is fully responsive, and his back's no longer broken.
Yeah. It's not even like he still has this injury, but miraculously he can like talk and shit. It's like nothing ever happened to him.
Yeah.
Which is...
And Sean's back to being Sean, being like, okay.
Yeah, Sean's back to being a terrible actor. That is the problem with Sean, too, is him and Kai both are pretty bad because they're just surfers in real life.
Yeah.
But they have to be in scenes with people who are acting their fucking dicks off. So, like, Sean's having these moments with Rebecca De Mornay, who's just a beast, and it just really emphasizes how fucking terrible he is at acting.
Yeah, she's, like, throwing all this emotion at him. Blank slate. He's like, cool, can I go skateboard?
Yeah.
She's like, you just broke your neck.
I kind of half expected he was going to break his fucking neck again when he went skateboarding, because that was going to make me laugh. So Freddie, the drug dealer, Steady Freddie, they call him, from Hawaii, he has a new friend who is, what's the polite word? Is he like, I don't know that he's mentally disabled, but he seems... He's more dumb than dumb, is what I'm saying. You know what I mean? Like, he's not just some dummy. He's, like, slow. Yeah,
he's just like, he's like one of those, like, old kind of mob characters where it's like, oh, yeah, get him, Freddy.
Yeah.
Like, he's like I don't know, is Goomba a slur?
No, I think that, well, isn't that the thing from Super Mario Brothers?
Maybe it is.
Isn't that a Goomba? The little fucking the red things that bounce up and down?
It's what I felt when I looked at it. I was like, this guy's a Goomba.
I get you. He's a bit of a Goomba. I'll give you that.
And he also looks like Freddy's son.
He does. He's got the same hair. He's got the same like pattern baldness that Freddy has. But Freddy fucking just goes, let me see your hand, and then just shatters his fucking wrist against the dashboard because Freddy's like, I need an excuse to be inside the hospital. You can just be inside the hospital. You might not be able to get into Sean's room if you're not family, but like, it's a public place. Just walk inside.
Yeah, and then they never end up going inside the hospital anyways.
And he just duct tapes his fucking broke wrist back together. Those two are like, this may be too old of a reference. Did you ever watch Laverne and Shirley?
Yeah.
So Lenny and Squiggy, they're like tough. They're like Lenny and Squiggy if Lenny and Squiggy carried guns. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. But it's interesting though, because like Freddy, once he drops off Butchie and John at the hospital, you would think that his job would be done. Like he'd leave, but he stays.
And talks to himself. I'm assuming to himself, right?
Yeah, he's listening to opera.
Mm-hmm. And he's like, "Oh, she's a hell of a voice in this girl. She was in Phantom of the Opera, or whatever she does." And
it comes out as he's talking to his Goomba friend that like he doesn't know why he's acting this way. Like he doesn't know why he flew from Hawaii. He doesn't know why he drove them here and why he's still here.
That he's not
outside.
leaving. Yeah.
But something is compelling
him to do that.
And not only like be there, but look out for the family. Because him and his sidekick go and try and like break up the reporters that are all outside trying to get a scoop.
That's a lot of reporters for an entirely not famous kid. Right? But I get that he's supposed to be really good at surfing or whatever, but like in a niche community, people would know who he is. But he's not. This is like his first competition or whatever. So like, why does everyone know who he is? Why are the reporters so like parked in? I mean, now I get it afterwards because it's like a miracle has happened. So like the reporter should be interested, but like why were they so at the hospital?
Well, do you think maybe it was like Luke Perry's character was like, I'm going to call the press because bad press is still press?
It could be. Also, Luke Perry's a real piece of shit. So I tried to watch this show. So my girlfriend was in the living room, was watching the show, and she did not watch the first 2 episodes.
Okay, so she was lost.
She has no fucking clue what's happening, and like, it kind of shows what this show is, which is it set itself up in the pilot, and if you miss that setup, we're not going to help you. There is no like catching up in dialogue to be done. They don't explain who anyone is, what their relationship to anybody else is, which could like at the time it's a thing. Like now we expect that, right? Like we've been trained by prestige television, Game of Thrones, whatever, to like expect like if you miss an episode, you're going to be lost. I feel like that might have been a problem in 2007 is why this show maybe, I mean, Sopranos had happened and that sort of thing has happened. It wasn't quite as prevalent. So I wonder if that's maybe also why this has been canceled.
Yeah, it's also so stylized that I think that too, on top of like not knowing the characters and the relationship to each other, it's like, oh, I don't get what the tone of this show is, especially like if you're just jumping in.
Sure. Oh, yeah. No, she had no clue what was going on. At one point, Steady Freddy calls the reporters blood-drinking vampire cocksucker on sale for half a ham sandwich. I get the first part.
Yeah.
I get up to cocksucker, and then on sale for half a ham sandwich, I am completely lost. But so they have to. What I found interesting is the doctor's character. I feel like over these two episodes is the only one, except for maybe Cass, reacting appropriately to like supernatural phenomenon happening. Right, because he has witnessed a miracle. A boy came in with a completely shattered fucking spinal column and is now absolutely fine. His reaction is to like quit his job and just be around that family and be like, I don't know what my place in this world is anymore. That is the reaction you should have. Meanwhile, people are floating and they're like, I got to go get a poultice for my knee and fucking whatever. Like they're not reacting to the shit at all. Yeah.
Mitch keeps stuff pretty buried deep.
Mitch is a cunt. So the other thing my girlfriend pointed out after the first episode she watched me, the third episode, was who's likable on this show.
Ooh.
And I think kind of everybody except Mitch and maybe Luke Perry, because Luke Perry's clearly up to something. But like Bill's likable as fuck. Even Steady Freddy is likable.
Yeah.
Like he's weird and likable. Butchie might be a junkie drug addict, but
he's charming
with a heart of gold, right? He's likable.
Yeah.
Everybody's like, there isn't like a villain on this show, so to speak, except for maybe Mitch, who's just an egotistical asshole.
Yeah, Mitch has just been like sipping from that self-pity sippy cup for a long time.
That is very true. But he also like, and it might be in the next episode, I think. It is in the next episode, but we can kind of talk about it. Well, let's stick to the first episode for while we're doing it. Because there's a lot of shit going on.
Yeah, so Steady Freddy and them. So as soon as the doctor goes in and he sees that Sean is awake, he's like, okay, well, your grandson is fine, and there's nothing the hospital can do, so take him.
And even more to the point, he's like, if he stays here, whatever the hospital does is not going to be for your family's benefit, meaning they're going to either like run a bunch of crazy experiments on him or like try to get you to sign papers so you're not going to sue, whatever it is. So he's like looking out for the family and he's like, so get him out of here. And they have to like Benny Hill their way out the back of the thing with like him on a piggyback ride or whatever. But yeah, so they leave immediately.
Yes, but before they leave, there's like a brief window of time where Mitch has like walked out of the hospital and he's just sulking by himself. He's like, oh, my grandson's pretty much dead to me.
Yeah.
And then out comes Cass. Is that her name?
Yeah.
Cass, who is the cool girl with the Porsche who works with Luke Perry.
There's something going on.
Yeah. And she invites him for a ride, and he takes her up on it and goes for a ride and leaves. And so he hasn't realized that Sean's awake.
He has no idea Sean's not dead, right?
Yeah.
Also, at this point, they go for a ride. They like walk on the beach. They have a conversation. She invites him back to the hotel. They fuck. All of this before he realizes his son is alive, right?
Yeah.
So, like, here's what I'm saying about Mitch being a wild asshole. Is that your move? Like, your grandson has just shattered his neck. They're going to have to take him off life support. You're leaving all of that to your wife because you can't handle any sort of fucking anything to do with illness or whatever. You act like a lunatic. And your first move is to just go cheat on your wife with some, I don't know, girl who's 20 years younger than you. Like,
because of how easy it was, I feel like this was not his first time doing this.
Oh, no way. He's definitely
And she was definitely letting him talk about himself the whole time. And I was like, he's not like, who sleeps with this guy who all he does is just complain about how hard his life is?
And talk in the most bullshit, like, freshman year of college way about surfing.
Yeah.
Where he says one thing where it's like, that's not surfing, man. That's just so what? So a bunch of people can judge you and give you a number so they can compare you to some other number so some other shitheads know which sunglasses to buy or whatever. This is stupid ass soliloquy about like capitalism ruining the art of fucking surfing. And it's like, you are 50. Grow the fuck up.
Yes, he's way too old to be just like throwing this pity party with pity balloons.
Also, there's a thing I have a problem with, and this is completely out of nowhere. When Sean wakes up in the hospital, he looks up at Butch, he walks into the room, he goes, "I won, Dad." I don't think he should have won. I think if you shatter your neck, you lost. Like, I don't, even in, like, you shouldn't get the medal. You did the worst at surfing because you died. Like, that's gotta be, everyone who didn't die while surfing did better than you.
Yeah, if anyone was, like, playing basketball and someone died on the court, they're not like, this team
MVP.
wins.
Yeah.
Yeah. All-star. Yeah. He won. I don't know. It must have been, like, an honorary thing, but I don't know.
But they do make a point of saying he won, like repeatedly, which is very weird. Also, everybody on the show is reacting. All their actions are around the Yosts right now. So, like the three people at the hospital, Luis Guzman, or at the hotel, Luis Guzman's like, "Oh, you know, when my cousin got shot, we all made food because he didn't have any, and they're like, "What do you mean?" He said, "Well, they're going to get home and they're not going to have anything to eat and they're going to be sad. We should bring them pea soup for some reason."
Yes, and then the owner is like, "But before we do that, let me close the room."
Yeah, he has to go close the door to the haunted room because he didn't close it when he got scared and ran away.
And he hears singing when he approaches that none of them can hear. He's the only one that hears it, and he says, "Postcoital Debbie Boone."
Yeah, that I guess we're led to believe that the guy who raped him in that hotel room sang Debbie Boone afterwards? It's weird, man. Okay, so they're also kind of ramping up the magic.
Yes.
Right? So John keeps saying how he's going to bone Kai.
Yeah.
Because Butchie said it. Again, John only speaks in repeating things that other people have said to him, right? So he just keeps talking about how he's going to bone Kai, and Kai's like, "All right, let's go back to my place for a minute."
Yeah, make her see God.
Yeah. But he does, right?
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if she sees God, but he says, "See God, Kai," and her eyes roll back into her head, and now she can see where everyone else is and what they're doing, right? Well, not everybody. We don't see everybody. We see Butchie about to shoot up. We see Luis Guzman spill soup on himself. Whatever. We see all these moments. When Butchie shoots up, smoke starts coming out the top of his head. We find out later it's because he has some sort of implants, metal implants. I'm assuming like horns or some sort of like a piercing of some kind.
I assumed it was horns just because he was saying like how he was so bad and he wanted to show everybody how bad he was.
Yeah.
And then Kai, when she had the visions, her nipple piercings were also really
got crazy hot, and her vagina piercing, as we find out.
Yes.
And what turns out is when he was going to shoot up, his piercings got super hot and started burning his hair. That's why there was smoke coming out of the top of his head. So like, there's also the thing of everyone is starting to piece together that maybe John is somehow involved in all of this.
Because but as soon as like Sean wakes up, I think there's too many magical things happening all in a series. Because this is only day 2, right?
Yeah.
Where they're like, oh, there must be something bigger going on here. And Butchie is talking to someone about his pockets and
the doctor. He's talking to the doctor.
Yeah, he's like, his pockets are magic.
Yeah, he's like a phone. But also the other thing and I get it's just sort of a stylistic choice.
Yeah.
But they don't just say, like, I needed a thing, and anytime you need a thing, it appears in his pants. He says, like, his pants make money or whatever, like, or the father, when referring to the father, no one ever says he's floating or he floats. They go, he's off the ground or he's up in the air. And it's like, no, that is a very vague way of putting that. Just say he was floating. I looked in and he was floating 6 feet off the ground. Like, no one just comes out and says that as much as they say, like, my father was off the ground yesterday. It's like, I don't know what the fuck that means.
Yeah.
So all this is happening, and meanwhile, Steady Freddy and Bill are butting heads a little bit because Bill approaches him and he says, like, "What's your name?" And he goes, "I ain't gonna tell you shit," or whatever. And they have this, like, Bill is talking like an old-timey cop, and Steady Freddy's kind of talking like an old-timey criminal. Like, they just are of the same age, so it's like they grew up in the same sort of crime era.
Yeah, and then John has a line, and I think it's like in episode 4 maybe, or at the end of episode 3, where he's just like, Bill isn't Freddy's first Bill, and Freddy isn't Bill's first Freddy.
Yeah.
So they've seen each other's type before, so I think they have a really quick read on each other.
For sure. And I enjoy it very much. At one point, Bill says something to Freddy. It doesn't even matter what it is. And Freddy's response, where it goes, I wrote it down because it made me laugh. Freddy says, well, pin a pink rose on your donkey nose. Oh, what the fuck, like, weird greaser talk is that? But I enjoyed it very much. So they're having they're kind of pairing characters off with each other.
Yeah.
Like, sort of, Butchie and Kai, not Butchie, but Kai and John are kind of doing a thing, and Freddie and Bill are doing a thing. They're all, Mitch and Cass are kind of doing their own thing, and then they're all kind of coming together. It seems to be a theme on the show. It's like everybody kind of ending up at the same place at the end.
Yeah, like ending up back at the motel.
Or at the hospital or whatever it is.
Yeah, some weird convergence. And then there's a moment where, so Mitch finally finds out that Sean is back because he wasn't answering his phone.
Right.
So he comes back and finds out that he's fine. And then he gets in another fight with his wife.
He's also doing that thing. He's such an asshole. So he's doing that. He's like, apologizing but not apologizing, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
where he's just like, look, I understand, like, because basically saying, you said a lot of hurtful things to me at the hospital or whatever. You shamed me, and I'm going to have to learn, and those were all my actual fault comings, and I'm going to have to learn how to deal with it. But it's still like, it's her fault. You know what I mean? It's not like, it's because you said these things, I reacted the way I did, as opposed to, oh, you're right about the shitty things you said about me, and I need to take stock of myself. And he refuses to just see his fucking grandson.
He doesn't see, and then he leaves, but he leaves hopping over a fence.
Well, everybody's going out the back and hopping over this fence because all the reporters are in the front, and they're trying to leave. And they're trying to, like...
But I think there was like a recurring motif, at least like in episode 3, because there's like a line that the motel owner says where he's like, fences make good neighbors.
Yeah.
And then there's Butchie coming over the fence into the house, and then Mitch going over the fence out of the house.
Absolutely.
So I think there's like some kind of metaphor there, maybe where it's just talking about how like Mitch is pulling away as Butchie's moving closer in.
And it's almost like, and while Mitch is climbing over the fence, he gets stuck on a nail behind his knee. So when Butchie comes out of the house, he's just hanging off of this fucking fence by his one leg, which is like the family is trying to still trying to hold on to him no matter how hard he's trying to get away.
Yeah. I like wrote down, I was like, because he stepped on the needle in the first episode, and then he got caught on a nail. I was like, stigmata theory?
Yeah, I mean, it's as absolutely as likely as any fucking thing else on the show, for sure.
I was like, he keeps getting stabbed.
The other thing that annoyed me is everyone talking to Sean keeps telling him, like, you were pretty banged up over there. No, he wasn't pretty banged up. He was fucking dead.
He was pretty much dead.
His neck was broken. He was only alive because machines were keeping him alive.
Yeah, and it's one of those things, like, you could call it an actor choice about, like, maybe he's still processing it and he's in shock, but he seems completely unfazed.
It's not an actor choice. He's a terrible actor. It is a casting choice to cast a child who cannot act in this role.
He just wants to skate. He just wants to go back
read a
out
magazine,
there.
yeah. Well, he's just like, I'm not tired, because he'd like want him to stay in bed or whatever, and he's like, I'm not tired, so he's like reading a magazine.
Honestly, if I came back from the dead, I probably wouldn't feel tired. I'd be like, I've been so well rested.
Let's go do some shit, man. I was dead for the last 2 hours. I'd like to, like, get out of this bed.
Yeah.
So Freddy's partner is the ice cream man, Palooka or whatever the fuck his name is. Because they talk about in the first episode that Butchie was buying drugs from heroin from the ice cream man. That's who that is. And he comes at one point, just the creepiest shit in the world. He just pokes his head in fucking Sean's window while Sean's like reading his magazine. And he's like, hey, you know me? I'm the ice cream man. It's like, run, kid. That is how you get molested.
I know. He's just like, I don't know who you saw. I don't know anything.
Yeah. He's like, is that the guy I saw coming in? He's like, how would I know who you saw coming in? He's like, good point.
Thanks, kid.
Yeah. But he's like, trying to listen in on the Butchie and the doctor's conversation, because Butchie and the doctor are having this conversation where the doctor's like, look, I witnessed a fucking miracle at my hospital, rather, I keep saying hotel, at my hospital. Your son came in with a severed spinal cord, and now he is absolutely fine. And Butchie is like, yeah, well, maybe it's this fucking John guy because he's got magic pants, and I should be feeling dope sick, but I'm not. And the doctor's like, hey, by the way, you've got like a
clot.
A clot, basically, where you shoot up that you should get checked out because it could give you a stroke or whatever.
Yeah. That clot's got to come back. You don't just.
I'm assuming that's not just a random. Like this show seems too specific.
Yeah.
But what I mean to say is like the ice cream man is like trying to gather information. He's always like poking around corners, trying to listen in and eavesdrop. I think for Freddy.
Yeah.
But like it doesn't seem malicious, right?
No, I think it's just like.
Because Freddy even says when he's talking to Ed O'Neill, he's like, Bill is like, I look out for the family. And Freddy's like, well, I also look out for the family. Like, so they seem to have good intentions, even if he's not sure what those intentions are.
Yeah, but for whatever reason, they just like feel compelled. There's some sort of like, call it the magic, call it just like trauma. But like it's all pulling all these characters closer and closer into this eye of the storm that we don't even know. The end is near, John says.
Yeah. That's the one thing we know is that the end is near.
And one thing that I noticed about John, like going into these episodes as opposed to the first two, is because he's always repeating things, right? But in these, he's repeating lines that people say to other people when John's not around.
Absolutely. Specifically in the next episode, very much so. Absolutely.
Yeah, so he's just pulling stuff from the ether now, which is like adding to the mysticism.
Yeah. We'll get into the next episode in a second. This episode ends with with Rebecca De Mornay basically telling Sean, go ahead and go out and skate. Because at first she's like, are you fucking crazy? You can't go skate. Your neck was broken 10 minutes ago.
Shoot out, Butchie.
Go fucking lay down. Yeah. Butchie goes to shoot up at that moment. That's what drives Butchie to shoot up. He hadn't shot up in days, but he goes to go shoot up because his Rebecca De Mornay yells at him, basically says, like, did you build that fucking half pipe? I built that half pipe. I didn't even tell you never showed up. I didn't even tell Sean you were supposed to show up because I knew you fucking wouldn't because you're goddamn junkie or whatever. He freaks out to go shoot up, but doesn't because his fucking weird implants start burning on top of his head. And I think we're led to believe we see a shot of what I'm guessing is spilled heroin. I'm not 100% sure what heroin looks like, but like there's a needle and a spoon and a liquid, so I'm assuming it's like, oh, he didn't actually get to shoot up.
No, because he's climbing right after that, so you're like, definitely not enough winning.
He's hopping fences pretty easy. But his other thing is that he's not dope sick. He should be. He hasn't gotten high in days. He should be on the ground sick, but he's not. And it ends with them saying, okay, you can go skate, and he's out skating, and all the reporters are like, what the fuck? Because the reporters didn't know he was awake either. All they knew is that the family had taken him from the hospital.
Yeah, and someone gets a picture, and then next episode,
front page of the paper is Miracle Boy, which it fucking should be. Like, a miracle has happened. And what we find out is that the doctor, who is now just a character on this show, he's having coffee, he's meeting with Stephen Tobolowsky, who's like the lawyer, and he tells the doctor, look, you have a PR problem, this will help. It's my letter of resignation. And he, in his letter of resignation, says he must have misdiagnosed him, and when he found out that he did, he destroyed the evidence, so that blah, blah, blah. And I think in an attempt to, like, not only save the hospital, but to, like, get people to leave the family alone.
Yeah.
But that doesn't work, because there's still reporters everywhere, even in this episode. They're still sneaking out the back.
For sure, but I think in terms of at least like the hospital investigating and things like that, as long as the hospital's butt is covered, they're probably not going to send like detectives or things after
His whole thing was like, they're not.
Them.
Don't worry, the family's not going to sue. Like,
yeah, and like even the attorney Stephen Tobolowsky looks at the headline. He's like, well, at least there's no pain and suffering with the headline like Miracle Boy.
Yeah. Mitch is just staying with the girl.
Wakes up post-coital, starts talking about her chakras.
Ugh, he's the worst. And I get, like, it hadn't really dawned on me that he's supposed to be this sort of, like, Eastern philosophy kind of Buddhist whatever thing.
He keeps talking about, like, his spiritual discipline, but he just, like, seems like a college freshman who got really into his, like, intro to philosophy class.
He got a copy of, like, Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Repair, and he's just, like, won't stop reading it in public, that kind of guy.
I feel like he must not be a good lay, because she was just sitting there.
She seemed fine, and then she went into the other room to cry. She went into the bathroom to cry, and then I laughed because Mitch is like, hey, can you come out here for a second? This is important. And when she walks out, he's just floating in the fucking room.
Even higher than he was before, though.
Significantly higher.
So it's like, at first it was like just really
few
low.
Inches off the ground.
Few inches. Then it was like maybe like a foot. And now...
He's like, his head's up to the ceiling. He's all the way, all the way in the air.
Higher. And then John, who is staying with Kai briefly, is like out looking at a field, just walking around.
Yeah.
Gets pulled up from these 3 guys in a van who I guess
I saw the van happen and I was like, get away from that van, John. Those guys are sketchy.
And he's like, yo, no, these are my friends. And he gets in the van with these guys who are going to try and rob him.
I'm assuming. But they give him a beer. And then they kind of get, like, they're kind of driving to, like, an alley or whatever.
They give him the beer, and then they're like, oh, you crushed our last beer, so you owe us something.
Right.
And then they pull a knife on him, and of course he's not scared because he can't even process what's happening to him.
Right.
And he gets stabbed.
Yeah. And I was like, oh, it's going to be some shit where, like, oh, he's not going to bleed or something happened. No, the stabbing matters. Like, he's, like...
He still has a body.
Yeah. But he doesn't, like, shit. Or pee, as far as we know, right? He's always faking it.
But he bleeds.
He bleeds for sure, because he is stuck twice and covered in blood and left on the side of the road for Vietnam Joe to find. But that doesn't happen until later. But this whole episode is Butchie and Kai walking around trying to find John. They enlist Bill's help.
And Bill's saying we're going to break up the community into quadrants.
Yeah. Well, that's a very policeman thing. But Bill is also putting... bubble wrap on the stairs in his house?
Yeah, he's like baby-proofing his own house.
Yeah.
For what purpose? I'm not sure.
Really sure, but he's having very long soliloquies delivered to his bird, which is just kind of how he speaks most of the time. But he's either speaking to his bird or his dead wife or a mix of both.
I think it's a mix of both. It's hard to know. He's channeling something otherworldly, though.
Yeah, clearly there's something going on there as well. Luke Perry and Cass are having arguments because Cass is like not getting the information she's supposed to be getting about Mitch. But then Luke Perry's character says at one point he goes, I'm trying to get him to move out of the house for good. But now is he talking about Sean or is he talking about Mitch?
I think maybe it's Mitch.
But why would that?
Because Mitch is the biggest obstacle to Sean surfing.
Yeah.
So if Mitch is out of the picture and maybe it's just Cece looking after Sean, then she'll let him pursue his love.
Yeah.
So that's why he's kind of hanging around their house still, and she's making him wash dishes.
Yeah. Which was weird. Also, there's a line, by the way, when Bill is delivering his soliloquy, he's like trying to duct tape this bubble wrap to the edge of the stairs, and he pulls off a piece of duct tape with his teeth, but it gets like stuck to his mouth.
Yeah.
And he says, may this pain come to Clinton for disgracing the Oval Office, and then pulls the duct tape off his face. It's so weird.
More of a Bush guy.
Well, that doesn't surprise me. A 60-year-old ex-cop.
It's very strange. And it's also interesting because, like, after Cass sees Mitch levitating, she's like, do you want to see if that store's open for your knee?
Because he goes to an apothecary to get a poultice for his knee. And I did laugh where he says, like, they're not really strict about their business hours. And I was like, yeah, no, of course not. They sell moss for you to rub on the back of your leg.
He comes back and he has this book on levitation.
for the illuminated or whatever. Yeah. From their lending library.
And he's trying to figure out what his levitation means. He's like,
reasonable.
Is it about my surfing? Is it about my years of spiritual discipline? Is it about my family?
Yeah. Well, also, that's what I was going to say. And it's later in this episode, but we can talk about it now. And what a fucking egomaniac lunatic fucking Mitch Yost is. Because he basically says, I always knew I was special, and I always thought it was because of my surfing. But now that, Sean is healing and I'm floating, maybe I'm special and that's why Sean is healed. Really? What? You think you did it? The one person who was like, kill him now and I'm leaving. You think you're the one who saved his life?
Yeah.
That just made me real mad.
Yeah. I don't know why he feels like it has anything to do with him. And also, I mean,
the floating probably. Yeah, I could imagine it's something to do with it.
Yeah, but I think like Sean's miracle outweighs his miracle.
By a lot. Yeah. You're floating, he's alive. Like he came back from the dead, essentially. which would kind of make Sean Jesus. Just a lot of, I'm assuming, religious stuff going on here.
Yeah.
So Kai
and Butchie, they're looking for John.
They're looking for John. And they're going around, and they're like kind of having a nice conversation or whatever. They're getting a little flirty. He kicks her in the butt. She kicks him in the butt.
And she's like, "Why did you tell John to bone me?"
Right, yeah, that's gross. But he was like, "What I meant to say was he picked a really nice person to like or whatever."
Yeah.
But John doesn't know what bone means. In the previous episode where he's like back to the house, he's like, "Are we gonna bone?" And she's like, touch my tits. And he's like, tits doesn't ring a bell. Like, he just doesn't know anything, right? So, like, but then Butchie and Kai are going to hook up.
Yeah, they get, like, flirty.
They get flirty, which is, like, he's charming. I get it. But, like, you're really just going to jump on that IV drug user dick that fast? Like, you know him to be a squatter junkie. That's all you know him of.
And it's not like his drug history is like really far behind him.
No, it's a couple days ago. It's 3 days ago at this point.
Wow, those 3 days of sobriety really turned you around.
3 days of sobriety in which I don't think he's taken a shower. I haven't seen it happen.
I haven't seen it
happen.
like,
yeah, for her to just, literally jump on him. And then we find out, I think, that he stood her up at junior prom.
Yeah, they have a long history together.
Right, because she says, like, I'm going to... And it just didn't fit her character at all to me at all.
The music?
Well, even the music choice, whatever. It's a good song. But she's like, I'll spare you the candles, but if you make fun of this music, I'm going to beat you up or whatever. And she plays Peter Gabriel, right?
Yeah.
Which it's like a song people like, so that wasn't such a weird choice. But like the candle, suddenly she shows up and it's going to be like she's like real girly,
yeah,
and that just doesn't fit Kai. Like, yeah, it seems like she'd be like, no, like more.
She's saying dumping out as much as everybody else.
She's like, oh, my pussy was on fire when the thing heated up or whatever. She's like graphic, so for her to just be like, hold on, I need to light some candles and whatever, just it seemed out of place.
Yeah, and then she's like, also, I have piercings. Don't be
freaked out or whatever.
Freaked out by them.
Also, you're talking to a man who has piercings in his skull and is a junkie drug user. I can't imagine you're the first set of nipple rings he's seen in his life.
Yeah.
But even more to the point in that scene, he says something about like, was this song playing the first time I threw up on you? Which, the first time, that's a real bummer of a sentence.
Yeah.
And then she says it was playing at our junior prom. And he's like, I missed junior prom. And she's like, I know. Which it kind of felt like she was implying like they were supposed to go together and he ditched her, I guess, maybe.
Or maybe like she had one of those like far away crushes on him because maybe he was already good at surfing by that point, young, exciting. She also surfed. Maybe that's what it was.
I guess. I don't know. It was... But it's just implying a longer history between those two characters than I think I realized.
Yeah, there's definitely
they like grew up together.
An undercurrent of flirtation there, and so I wonder how that'll pan out. But it's really like we're just waiting for Butchie to relapse at some point, right?
Yeah, I can only assume.
Cass also has visions in this episode.
And now the previous visions were brought on by John saying, "See God, Kai," because Butchie had told him when he thought they were going to go bone to make her see God. So he says, "See God, Kai," and that's kind of brings the visions on. Cass just has them out of nowhere.
Yeah, alone in the hotel room, probably in between cries, and.
But she has a vision of John lying in the ditch bleeding.
And a motel.
Yeah.
Yeah. And John is getting a ride from Vietnam
Joe finds him there all stabbed up, and he's like, Jesus Christ, hold on, let me help you. Let me get you back to the town or whatever, get you to the hospital.
This must have been triggering for him because he was very emotional.
Well, they say there's a very specific thing that happens here. So again, everybody kind of ends up back at the hotel at this point, for various reasons. Like Bill is there because he's trying to find Butchie to tell him he was looking for fucking John, but he finished his quadrant or whatever. Freddie and Ice Cream Man are posted up outside there, fucking with like the old lady in Boca Raton like sun reflector thing that you suntan with. The three people that run the hotel are there. Like, everybody's kind of meeting up at this point. Butchie and Kai are in Butchie's place, but everybody's at this one spot. Vietnam Joe shows up at this point with John, who is completely healed. When Vietnam Joe found him, he had a hole in his stomach. He was bleeding. He was dying in this car. And then he shows up, and John's just like got his head out the window like a dog as they're driving up in the van, and he's fine.
Yeah, and he had put Joe's hand on his chest and was like, "You can help, Joe." And for whatever reason, that magically healed him.
But what... So Vietnam Joe says, which one of those guys at the VFW put you up to this? Because I told them something in confidence, and for them to use it against me in a prank is fucked up, and I'm going to go beat the shit out of somebody. And John looks at him and goes, "You didn't leave me behind, Joe." So what I think is happening is Joe at some point has told a story to someone about when he was in Vietnam, he left an injured man behind and ran because he was scared. And this time he didn't. So John was giving him, Joe obviously doesn't have the ability to heal people. That was John's power. But I think doing this allowed Joe to heal himself emotionally, right? I think that was the sort of point of all that.
For sure.
Which I liked. I thought, because I didn't expect Vietnam Joe to be, like, a character that got that amount of attention, you know?
Yeah. And, like, already just in these 4 episodes, you're seeing, like, characters shift or grow. Everyone apart from Mitch is growing as a person.
Yeah.
What did Bill kept calling John something. Now I see you.
Right, because I keep my eyes on you, he said to John, and then John said it back to him because that's how he fucking reacts.
So he keeps calling him when he's having these soliloquies to himself. He's like, I keep getting I got my eyes on you, instead of saying John.
Yeah.
Which I think is very interesting. And it's kind of funny when Butchie and Kai come to Bill's house and they're like, we're looking for John. And they're like, where's Sean?
Bill's immediately like, well, where's Sean? Because he thinks John's going to try to fuck this kid.
And then when they find out that Sean's just like fine at the house, he's just like, oh, well, he's not a pervert. Okay.
But I like what happens in that moment is that Kai calls the shop to ask Rebecca Bader essentially to check up on where Sean is, and that's where he finds out. And it's like Butchie's not understanding what's happening, and Bill's like, that one's got some brains. I don't know what she's doing with you, because they have like a little moment where like, oh, let's make sure hasn't kidnapped this kid.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, just a horribly acted scene from Sean. They're at he's hanging out with some friends. They had gone surfing, and now they're back at the surf shop. The mom's there.
Just watching videos.
Just watching surf videos like kids do or whatever. And there's two grown men in the store that turn out to be reporters trying to fish around for a story on Sean.
Yeah, and one of the reporters is looking at like a women's wetsuit.
Yeah.
And she's like, oh, is that for you?
Yeah. It's got to make your surfing and drag's got to make your nuts hurt or whatever she says. But she's like, you fucking piece of shit. Like she has this moment where like, fuck you, get out of here. But it's like emotional and delivered well. And then Sean's like, yeah, you piece of shit. Like Sean is so flat. When the kid is like, they're having a conversation, like the kids are all talking amongst themselves, and one of them says like,
you died.
But, basically he says like, my grandma serves better than you and she's dead. And he's like, well, whatever. Sean died yesterday.
Yeah.
And Sean's like, get the fuck out of here. Look at the mess you made. Like, he's just got nothing. He's just nothing at all.
Yeah.
The doctor is going on a bit of a somewhat of like, I don't know, like a journey. He's like lost at this point. He's quit the hospital. He doesn't know what he's doing. And he's just like trying to check up on Sean. He's just kind of wanting to be
checking up on
Butchie. It seems like he just wants to be around whatever this magical thing is.
And he meets John for the first time as John's getting out of Joe's truck. That's the first time he's met John, right?
They saw him at the hospital briefly,
like, really
but actually spending sort of time. Yes, he sees him at the when John's getting out of the truck,
and he's like, "There's no stab."
Right?
Things,
he's like,
"This
is fresh. This is fresh, real blood." Yeah, but in the beginning, so John shows the doctor is walking around. He goes to Butchie's. Butchie's not there. He does run into Luke Perry at one point while Luke Perry's cleaning the house, and I like the line. There's a line where he says like. He's like, so are you related to the Yosts? And Luke Perry says, not by blood. And he's like, oh, so you just smell it in the water? And he's like, those two of them are having like a really kind of, well, what's your angle? Well, what's your angle? And Luke Perry's coming from the place that's like, I'm actually working an angle. So I think everybody else is. And meanwhile, the doctor's like, no, I just saw a miracle yesterday and I don't know how to live in this world anymore. To the point where he does meet that old Mexican lady. Which was such a weird but good but weird scene.
Yeah. He's like, I think I'm going to fill out this catalog she gave me.
He's like, she's working on these flowers, and he's just like, nice roses. And she goes, you want Cadillac? And he's like, do I want a Cadillac?
Yeah.
And then there's a sign. It's like she sells Avon. So he's like, oh, I will get a Cadillac. I will take a catalog. Thank you. And then he just kind of talks to her a little bit about like, yeah, saw this weird thing or whatever. And she's like, doesn't speak English, I'm guessing, because not responding. And then he's like, is the hotel this way? And she's like, yes. And then that's the whole scene. But it's like 2.5 minutes. It's like a lot of screen time given to just him being confused. It was just a very odd scene, I thought.
Yeah, it's like one of those things like where you don't know what reads as significant until later on in the show. Sure. And so it's like, yeah, maybe these flowers
are going to come back.
Yeah, maybe the flowers come back. Maybe the catalog's important. Maybe he buys something in the catalog that becomes useful later. Like, sure, why not? Everything.
Another bit of weird lingo, per se, like dumping out or whatever.
Yeah.
Is what Cass pulls up at one point to the hotel. And Kai says to Butchie, he's like, oh, that's that girl. She was trying to slap it on your dad. And then, like, she just picks up fucking John and drives away. And he's like, she's trying to slap it on John now, too? And I'm like, is that I've never heard that as a term before. Like, dump, I get. You take a dump. I never dump it out, but at least it's, like, in context. I figured it out. But slapping it on? Very weird.
They're so visceral, these phrases. All of these phrases that they're giving us, they're like really like you can hear it in the rafters.
Yeah. There's texture to these words. It's very weird and gross.
Bill has a moment with his bird, Zippy, where he feels that Zippy has not told him explicitly, but conveyed
to him,
that him and Freddie are supposed to be friends.
Right.
And so he goes over to the motel to seek out Freddie again.
Yeah, this time with coffee and donuts.
And was like, listen, I don't know what my bird's thinking, but you and I are supposed to work together.
And at one point, Freddie goes, I got a lizard back home that changes shapes. And Bill says, they call those chameleons. But that's not what Freddie means. Freddie means his lizard changes shapes, not colors.
Yeah.
Because he keeps talking about John being a shapeshifter and shit, so that's weird. And then some strange blonde lady pulls up looking for Butchie.
I thought it might be Sean's mom, because we haven't met
Sean's mom. That could be. I hadn't even really thought about that, but that would make sense. But it's like, oh, here's another character that's clearly going to be. She has like 2 seconds in this episode, but clearly she's going to be in the next one. You know what I mean? Like she's going to be around. What was the other big moment? Is there any other? There's also the scene where fucking Bill comes to the hotel to tell Butchie and Kai that he hasn't had whatever, and Butchie just has a hard on because he was making out with fucking with Kai there. He even said like they're making out, and he's like, sorry, I haven't shot up in 3 days. I'd get hard at mud, which is a very oddly delivered line, but like. And tell me if I'm crazy wrong, she jumped on him, right? Like, jumped up, wrapped her legs around him. Yeah. Like, clearly she's down, right?
Yeah.
So I'm not sure why he's so apologetic about the hard-on at that point. It seemed like that was eventually the goal. Yeah. I thought he was apologizing because, like, he couldn't get... Like, he hadn't done heroin in so long and he couldn't get it up is what I thought they were going for.
I think so. And then, like, immediately he gets one as he opens the door for Bill.
Because Bill's like, Jesus, you have an erection.
He's just like, sorry, I gotta put this one down.
But see, now this is another example of John starting to repeat things he's not privy to. Like, he's not there for. Because he said, Butchie at one point says, let me handle this unfortunate bulge, I think is the exact line.
Yeah.
And then when John's driving away, and that's just him and Kai alone in the room, and then when John's driving away with Cass, he goes like, handle that bulge, Butchie, or whatever, and does the fucking cowabunga hands. Yeah. So like he's starting to repeat things that he has not been around for, which is just more weirdness.
And Cass comes back to the hotel, and Mitch is there reading his meditation book.
Right.
And she's like, you gotta go, because I got
John here now. Yeah.
And she tells Luke Perry's character, she's like, hey, I sent him off.
Right, I got rid of him.
And he's like, you're fired. And I was like, what did she do?
What did she do? I don't as far as I can tell, Luke Perry was paying her to get close to Mitch. And I guess to eventually be in a position that, like, in like exert influence over him, I'm assuming, or gather information on him, whatever it may be. But she has opted not to do that, to be around John.
Yeah.
Because of the vision that she had, right?
Yes, because of the vision that she had.
And I think partially from seeing that dude float.
For sure.
Which I do think it's kind of funny at this point. Floating is kind of the most minor of magical things that have been happening, and people are kind of reacting to it as such. So, like, she sees him float, and she's like, I'm going to go to the store. Like, people are still like, yeah, I get it, you float, but, like, so did David Blaine, so I don't know why this is so big.
Yeah. Well, it's like if your most annoying friend suddenly learned a really cool trick. It's like, well, I mean, yeah, but I still don't want to hang out.
I still don't like you. Yeah. But she's like, she brings John back because he's going to stay with her. He's still covered in blood. No one has bothered to clean him up at all, which is an odd choice. But she's like, you'll sleep on the floor and I'll work over here or whatever. And then she asks him, what do you mean? Which is, no one's asked him that yet. I thought that was an interesting choice. And then he says, see God cast. Or see God Kai. And she goes, I'm cast. And he goes, see God cast. So, like, I don't know what the fuck is going on. That being said, I'm deeply confused, but, like, 100% in.
Yeah.
Like, I find it fascinating. And there's, like, interesting shots. There's a moment where, technically the third episode, where Freddy's sitting outside the hospital, like, having that conversation with himself, and Cass walks out of the hospital, and there's just this, like, solo shot of this big wall that she, like, walks slowly in front of while the opera is playing, and then Mitch does the same thing, and it's clearly, like, intentional and very interesting looking. I don't know what it means, but it's, like, cool looking. So, like, on all levels, this show has, like, got me.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, I'm hooked.
I'm interested to see where it goes, because we're 4 episodes in and there's 4 episodes left. And right now, I'm definitely...
Are there only 8? I thought there were 10.
Were there 10?
I think there's 10. I hope there's 10. I'm going to be bummed out if there's only 8.
There's probably 10. But I mean, like, I'm definitely at the point where we're like, more questions than answers.
I have no answers. I don't know anything.
Do you have any more ideas about what John could be?
I am leaning more and more towards religion, and not necessarily Christianity, so maybe not an angel, but there is some sort of omnipotence going on with him, right?
Yeah.
Because he, like we say, he's able to repeat things that he's not around for. I think he caused that earthquake. Like, so there's, like, more of a all-seeingness going on with John than I think initially we were led to believe. So there's something there. What it is, no fucking idea. But yeah, I got nothing. What are you? Any clue?
No idea. Although after the shape-shifting lizard line from Freddy, I was like, lizard?
He could be an alien. He could be a shape-shifting lizard alien for sure. I wouldn't be shocked at all.
I wouldn't be shocked, but it would definitely be a hard right turn from this, because I'm definitely feeling religious.
Alien doesn't make any sense to me anymore.
No,
that was only just kind of the way he speaks, just because the way science fiction has kind of handled aliens in the past.
Yeah, just that kind of blank slate character is always like Lilu from Fifth Element. Just
multipaths or whatever.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But no, I'm definitely feeling religious vibes from. And also the repeating, like, see God and the prophetic visions. And
Yeah.
Zippy is clearly in tune with something, the bird.
The one relationship that I'm very much excited to see progress is Freddie and Bill.
Yeah,
the
that's
fact
probably
that, like,
the most
that's
exciting.
Gonna happen, and they're like, I don't know, there's like, they don't like each other, but you can tell right away they have this, like, super easy rapport. Like, yeah, I'm very excited for that. Anything else you want to plug? Where can we find you on the internet?
You can follow me on Twitter at TwistedMiddleKid or Instagram at DeafNotADirtyOldMan.
Definitely do that. I'm at Chris Cubis on all social media. You can, the Sting is first Wednesday of the month. I'm not sure if this will be out by then. If it is, you should come to it. That's going to be awesome. If not, we'll see you next week.
See you.